Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. Yeah, this is probably something of an odd posting on this channel. Well, maybe not all that odd for those who've been watching this channel for some time now. To sort of preface, and I'll get into this pretty deep here, but to preface, people have asked me, why are you doing this? Well, it's sort of the same reason I started asking serious questions during COVID. I just don't want to live in a world where the country I've come to call home and love and love being here is going to be colonized by the very people that arguably destroyed aspects of where I came from. And that's what I find concerning. I'm not really making this video to put anybody in Thailand particularly on the spot. My issue is with the World Economic Forum, because I think these people, as I've talked about in other videos, it's almost like Spectre or something from the Bond films. It's almost cartoonishly villainous, and I would laugh at it if they weren't trying to do a bunch of things that aren't particularly in the interests of just the common people worldwide, by the way. And we'll go ahead and put some other stuff up on screen here, but these people that are affiliated with the World Economic Forum, they all seem to want just things that aren't very good for the common man, if you will. Meanwhile, people have also sort of said, well, it's ironic that you're upset with the current government because, it was democratically elected and it was put in. Yeah, okay, but one, there was no electoral mandate for things like the digital wallet, if you look at how all of that played out. And here's the other irony in all of this, and I've talked about this a little bit. It was actually mentioned in the Bangkok Post directly, and I put up a comment at one point referencing it, but that comment got taken down. I don't know why. It just ceased to be on YouTube. I don't know exactly why. But as I pointed out in that comment, we went for a decade when we were under the other government, and let's be clear, there are things to say about the other government, the prior government, many things. But one thing that you can say about the prior government is during that whole 10 years, nobody went to the World Economic Forum. And we didn't see all these harebrained ideas that are, in my opinion, at the very least, mildly detrimental to the common Thai's best interests. I would put it that way. Or it's really bad. Like, again, digital wallet currency I've talked about. It's just total surveillance, totalitarianism stuff. And then when you get into the World Economic Forum, they literally say they are the standard bearer of public-private partnerships, which, again, when the private sector interacts with the public sector, it is not necessarily per se bad. That occurs here in Thailand, occurs in the United States. But when your standard is public-private partnership, that sounds an awful lot like Mussolini's definition of fascism, the marriage of state and corporate power. When that's all that is your goal, is the marriage, public-private partnerships is the goal. Then meanwhile, phrases like "you'll own nothing and be happy" have a very Leninistic, sloganeering aspect to them. It's like the worst aspects of the Comintern and the worst aspects of fascism all rolled into one forum where they all discuss how the big people can, look down on all of us little people and do things to us that might not necessarily be in our interest. Or convince us to do things that may not necessarily be in our interest. Meanwhile, recently, let me just dig in here, quoting from a recent article in the Colonized English, that's colonizedenglish.com. Article is titled "Thaksin Comeback on Stage, Economic Plans, Political Rifts, and Landmark Speech." Again, I'm not trying to point fingers or put anyone in Thailand particularly on the spot. That said, when it's openly talked about that someone is the real power behind the scenes sort of thing, and then the prior iteration of this same faction of the coalition, the moment they came into power, started pushing things like the digital wallet, pushing things like even Chinese police on our streets here in Thailand, a lot of WEF notions, and then the former prime minister actually traveled to the World Economic Forum while being prime minister. I made videos on that at the time. Again, I'm not trying to zero in on anybody per se, but it really makes me uneasy to hear these WEF talking points being discussed on these in this way. I'll put it that way. That said, quoting directly, Thaksin Shinawatra, former Prime Minister of Thailand, gave his first public speech and shared his vision after being officially pardoned. Well, why do we care what his vision is at this stage of the game? I do understand the history of things, and I have a certain amount of respect for Mr. Thaksin in a way, but that said, he's not the current Prime Minister. You know, what does this have anything to do with anything? Is he able to say things that the sitting Prime Minister can't? And is that part of what's going on here? I don't know. That said, quoting further, Thaksin Shinawatra, former Prime Minister of Thailand, gave his first public speech and shared his vision after being officially pardoned. This event took place on a Thursday night, August 22nd, 2024, at Siam Paragon. His speech and subsequent interviews lasted over 2 hours. So yeah, big things happening here in Thailand, big changes. That said, let's dig into some of these bullet points. Quoting further, large-scale public investment must address systemic issues. I always like that, systemic issues. And by the way, large-scale public investment, where's that going to come from? The taxpayers? Quoting further, such as flood and drought problems, which, fair enough, that's a good point. Thailand always needs to worry about flood and drought problems. That said, is the solution something that sounds like the WEF solutions? Quoting further, one proposal is to reclaim land in Bang Khun Thien and Pak Nam to reduce congestion in Bangkok and increase green space, allowing only electric trains to operate in the area. What proposal does that? Kind of a little bit like 15-minute cities, where we'll all be packed into these little 15-minute cities and we won't have any real ability to travel anywhere, but we won't want to because we'll all own nothing and we'll all be busy being happy. Quoting further, connect the world with high-speed rail from from Bangkok to Nong Khai, which must be completed to link with China's Silk Road initiative. So yet again, China. Okay, first off, I got no problem with China. The Middle Kingdom has an amazing history. I've got real problems with communism, and communism is still in China. And people that say it's not, I find very, very naive. Because in any communist system, even if it's ostensibly capitalist, the way the sort of Dengism system that currently operates in Thailand, or excuse me, currently operates in China, sort of operates, it may look capitalistic, but I can guarantee you there is somebody in a filing cabinet of a building somewhere, some communist, trying to figure out how to get it right the next time. And we all know what the experiment on getting it right in the last century was like. It was hellish. It was called the Soviet Union. It was called international communism. It was terrible. It killed millions. Again, that said, I'm all in favor of trade, but trade to Thailand's benefit. Thailand does not need to be subsumed by foreign powers, including China for that matter. Western powers included. Any place. Thailand just needs to be independent, autonomous, and sovereign. That's what I'm worried about. Quoting further, establish Thailand as a financial center by inviting global banks to set up in the country for international transactions, while Thai banks should set up branches abroad to enjoy reciprocal rights. Well, do we need that? The Thai banking system is okay. I'm one of the few people that will actually advocate in favor of protectionism sometimes because I've seen it actually work here in Thailand. Now, I'm not against the notion of Thailand as a financial hub per se. I think with the rise of Inbridge, which is this sort of platform that's going to put together what could only be referred to as Halford Mackinder's World Island here in Eurasia and sort of allow interoperability between these different central banks for purposes of increasing efficiency and international trade, great idea. Not a problem. But again, I don't want to see Thailand become subsumed by a bunch of foreign banking interests. Quoting further, and this, okay, if you think my title to this video is hyperbolic, quoting directly, amend laws on foreign land ownership with rules that benefit both economic growth and access for Thai citizens. Well, you know what ensures access for Thai citizens in the property market? Keeping the foreigners out. That's the best way to do it. The Thais have this one right. And foreigners out there who are angry with me over this particular tirade, I'm sorry. Maybe I have the fervor of the converted, but I am the converted. I became Thai, and I understand why they have the restrictions they have. For example, we did videos in the past on Mr. Jatuporn, and him talking about the issues associated with foreigners owning land in Thailand. And while I don't really agree with him on most of his stances, he was spot on that. You know, we cannot let foreigners come into Thailand and colonize this place. And they will do it. And they will drive the average Thai primarily out of the best parts of the property market. If you have any doubts about this, look to the West. Look at the experiment. Look at the laboratory that is the West for all these World Economic Forum programs. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. Quoting further, online gambling causes a massive outflow of Thai money. We need to manage taxes and ensure that the benefits are used, particularly in education. Well, a good idea would be, if you're worried about funding education, maybe don't use a $500 billion baht that you gut out of the budget to create these digital wallet magic bean tokens or whatever it is. It's not money. As the Bangkok Post, the economic guy in the Bangkok Post was talking about, digital wallet tokens. It's not money. I call it digital wallet tilapia because of Gresham's law, that bad money forces all the good money out of the market, warps up the economy. Again, I agree with the sentiment that education needs to be funded, but there are ways to do it, and frankly, we could be doing it now instead of other things. Quoting further, make the tax system fair and more competitive for both living and working by systematically managing value-added tax. Wow, systematically. Anytime I hear systematically, my hackles go up. Any sort of technocratic sort of jargon always kind of makes me uneasy, and systematically imposing VAT, which brings me to this other quote, reform the bureaucracy to make public spending and the number of personnel utilizing more technology. So technology makes everything great, right? Meanwhile, I'm kind of stuck with the voice of Mr. Martin Armstrong, another guy that you'll see a lot on YouTube, a long-term economic forecaster, talking about what people think behind this digital wallet and this digitization of all the bureaucracy. They seem to think that by imposing totalitarianism, they're going to get more tax money. When the reality is actually quite the opposite. If, again, we can look to the last century, totalitarianism in the USSR basically destroyed Russia and the surrounding countries that bordered it. Okay? More freedom, more liberty, and free enterprise is what will cause your tax base to go up. It's been proven time and time again. Finally, quote, I love this country and want to see it prosper. So do I, sir. So do I. I couldn't agree more, and I can tell you, again, from having come from the place where these WEF policies have been an unmitigated disaster, bringing in more of that to Thailand will do nothing, in my opinion, to help her prosper.